Carlos, welcome to the program.
Hi.
And how did you get into theater?
I got into theater my freshman year of high school, not out of my own volition, because my friend actually dragged me to it.
Oh.
She was very much interested in, like, she saw the things that they were handing out about the theater program. She was like, this sounds very interesting. I want to do that. And I was just like,
What does that have to do with you?
And she, we're best friends. And, like, it's just, it was something that I wanted to support her, and she was like, okay, we'll go.
Yeah.
And so we did it after school, and surprisingly, when they started like doing the actions, they started reading for it, and everyone was participating. I was like, I kind of want to try this. I want to see if I can like do it, like, I want to see if I can do it any different, or if I can like do something cool for them. And when I went up there and I read and I got like maybe a few people laughing and then a lot of people laughing, that was when I was like, wow, this is actually something I really enjoy. And from that reading, I participated in a couple plays all the way up to like UIL, and I was very much like in love with it, and I fell in love with that. And it became like one of the most stable things that I loved about it. It was just one of my definite creative outlets. Like, that was definitely the time when I realized this is what I want to do. Right. And this is what I want to pursue in my life.
Right. So what did you do before you had theater in your life?
To be quite honest, I really didn't have anything going on.
You must have some hobbies.
I had a thought in my head that I was either going to try to run a business.
Yes.
Or I was going to either try to become a writer.
Right.
Or a little bit of both or anything like that. But to me, it never really felt concrete or something. Like, I love writing. I do love writing. I do love the idea of, like, owning my own business one day. Right. But it wasn't, like, something that my heart was fully on at that point. Yeah. So I was just, like, at that time, I was definitely looking for something that would connect with me. Yeah. And something that would give me a lot of more fulfillment in what I wanted to pursue. So when I got into theater, it was definitely an eye-opener into what I wanted to do in life.
Well, let's talk about the writing, because something must have sparked that. So what did you write about?
I usually love to write, like, I just love writing stories about anything, really. Anything that pops in my head. Fantasy, contemporary, anything like... Right. If I imagine a character in a setting, that's where my mind will go. I'll just start, like... It'll literally go from point A to point Z in less than 5 minutes. Like, I'll have characters, and then I'll just start, like, writing about their actions and all that. Right. Sometimes I'll write stories about, like, my friends in real life, and I'll just, like, have them in, like, these crazy settings. And that's just, like, something I like to do, because they're just... It's so fun, the people I'm around. Right. Like, the personalities around me are just so fun to take, like, into stories. Yes. Granted, I think that could be called plagiarism.
No, you gotta be based on something. Well, where do you end up in these stories?
Usually it's just as a side character, more like.
Really?
So I just like helping. I don't like to include myself in stories.
Why?
Or more so, like, I like to put a character that's very much me, but not me. Yes. Like, it's just someone else entirely, but someone, like, with a different face and name, but definitely more like my personality. Right. Or I like to put if it's gonna be me in a story, then it has to be like someone like a very close friend, like helping me out in the stories. But it's just fun to write about sometimes. Or usually I use those as outlines for characters that are going out. That way it feels much more comfortable. Yeah. But I don't usually end up with those personalities in order, if you get what I mean? So, like, they're just templates.
Yeah, right. So when you look back at the early writing you did, what do you tell Carlos? Or what would you tell Carlos?
Handwriting is everything. Legibility. Legibility is something that you need to learn, child. When is God going to stop your sinful hand? It's just, obviously I wasn't the most, like, I had terrible handwriting growing up, so it was just awful. Right. And, but now as I've progressed writing more and more, I've definitely gotten better, hopefully. Yeah. There are times where my friend is, like, reading a story of mine, and she's just like, I'm like, you haven't spoke for, like, 5 minutes. What do you think? And she's just like, I'm trying to read it.
What does that mean? She is enjoying it, or she just can't read the handwriting?
She doesn't get my handwriting. She's like my hardest critique, but also like the best one because she's like encouraging of it. So it's helpful a lot. Yeah. I love work. She's like one of my betas, so it's like it helps. Right. But she's very harsh.
Well, what's the best advice she ever gave you?
The best advice that my friend ever gave me was try to instead of trying to so hard on what you're trying to instead of trying to perceive your message to the person,
right?
What are you thinking? What are you feeling? And what is the care? Oh, and try to put that into it,
right?
Because sometimes my work can be very stale or like it has no life at times. And even looking back at it myself, it's never been it does have that like sort of dead air to it,
right?
So a bit more emotion into it, or I have to tap into something in there.
Right. So that's interesting. I mean, so is this because you were a beginning writer, or is it because you were afraid to share something in your writing?
I think it's
when you look back at it. I mean, it's one thing when you were doing.
Oh, definitely a little bit of both. Being vulnerable in your writing is definitely something that you have to. Yeah, it's very hard at times.
So you ended up in theater where you have to be vulnerable.
Exactly, which is.
Okay.
What a twist.
Tell me about this. Like, what?
I think that's like what I was so happy about theater is when I got into it. The idea of becoming someone else or like having to invoke these different types of emotions are very much something that I enjoyed at times. Granted, I'm very much a paradoxical type of person. So like if I contradicted myself anyway, just know that's just how I am sometimes.
Well, that's not a bad thing. It keeps people guessing. That's not a bad thing.
Yeah. But I've always been like interested. I've always loved the idea of being in movies or being in television or being in shows really, or being just entertaining or just entertaining people in general.
Right.
So growing up, I definitely did a lot. I always like pretended I was someone else, or I would always and trying to envelop a character because I just really liked it much better.
Yeah.
And I guess that translates into theater. Yeah. Which I guess I should have seen it coming at times. You should have seen it coming. From a mile away, probably. Everyone, which is funny because like all my friends, they've always asked me like, "Are you in theater?" I'm just like, "No." And before I was like, You should be in theater." I'm just like, I don't know. And they were like, "Oh, you should be in theater." I'm just like, "Okay, I get the idea." Freshman year comes, "Oh, I'm in theater now." Well, fine.
Yeah. So, what's the favorite production you've done so far?
Actually, I have not been in a high school production since my freshman year because of my own doing. My grades weren't the best, and I wasn't able to participate. Yeah. But I feel, honestly, my favorite production so far, when we did Paganini, because that was my first UIL, and I think that's something that I'm going to take into my memory forever, because that was the first time I was in UIL, that was the first time I was a somewhat main character, or the character behind it all, which was fun. And I got to meet so many great people, so many people that I'm still friends with. Right. And people who have become, like, they're great, talented, creative people now. And they've done so much. And I'm just so happy for them to see where they've come so far in the last, 2 or 3 years. Yeah, but I really do love doing Legally Blonde now because it's such a step away from high school theater. Because it's a musical, obviously. And I've never been in a musical before.
Really? You've never been in a musical? Wow.
Yeah.
It's definitely different. I mean, you can do certain things that are over the top, those kind of things. But to actually do it authentically, really to do it really well, it can be hard. People poo it. It's just a musical, and it's almost like they think of it as just fluff, and a lot of it is fluff. But to do it well,
it's fun fluff.
Oh my god! Oh, it is fun fluff, absolutely. But you know what? We're lucky that we can kind of slip in a message every now. Just kind of slip it in there. Right. You don't have to beat them over the head.
But it's like we don't have to hit you over the head with context. We can just hit you in the head. We can just slightly slap you with subtitles. I really enjoyed this because, like I said, I've never been in a musical before. I've never been in any outside production outside of high school. I never did any acting classes before. Yeah. So obviously now being here in this position now is kind of really daunting and fun because I didn't really think I was actually going to get in because I have a terrible voice when I sing. I cannot sing forever. I do love to sing.
We can all work on that,
And that's what I love about this is like people here help you. They give you tips on how to do. They'll help you with your vocals and your acting, and then it's just very fun. And that's what I love about it.
It's supposed to be a growth experience for everyone. Definitely, we have everyone from first timers to people that have done this for 40 years professionally, kind of stuff. They just don't do it professional anymore. So it's that kind of thing. But it's supposed to be a growth for everyone. But at the same time, we're just a family. That's a community. True. And hopefully, it's like any family. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes we're dysfunctional. But we're still a family. We put the fun in
dysfunctional. That's how you know it's a great family.
What do you want to do now that you kind of starting to whet your appetite again? Stuff like that? What would you like to do that you haven't done yet?
Now that I've experienced this like more musical side of theater, I would definitely like to partake on that. Hopefully, develop my voice more if there's a chance that I can develop it more.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
I would like to take on. I would like to take on musicals anywhere, everywhere. That'd be fun. I would also like to do just like dramatic plays and all that.
Yeah.
I do want to do acting professionally, like in movies and all that, and television, and write for television also, which would be very fun. That's where I feel like my goal is going to be pushed towards.
Yeah.
Just for now, it's like working towards that is just very stressful because you're a student and you're also participating in these outside things, but you're also like having to try to like adjust to a social life.
Yes.
So it's like finding yourself, but also trying to like manage everything else.
And when you figure out that balance, let me know. We're still trying to work on that after so many years.
Oh boy, yeah.
You got what do they say? It sounds like you want to go where your passions are, obviously, and hopefully when you do that, you'll also meet other people that have those same passions, and they will become your friends and family. That will be your social life because that's all the time you're gonna have.
Right? Like these are like my life has basically just consisted of this. And
sleep.
This and sleep.
This is sleep. There might be a little eating in there someplace.
Maybe like a croissant here and there.
Yes. So have you traveled around? Where you been to? Not really, or
not really.
Never want to? Don't really care.
I kind of actually do want to. I've gone out of the country once in my life.
Oh yeah, where'd you go?
That was like 2 years ago, but it was like it was like a school trip to France.
Cool. That's England. That's not a bad school trip.
That's not a bad school trip, especially.
That's a pretty good trip.
France, England, Switzerland, and I think a little bit of Germany.
Wow.
But all in the span of a week. So it's like
fast.
You're there for one day. You're like exploring for like maybe a few hours, then you're gone like by the next morning.
Goodness. And what impressions did that leave you with?
The world is much bigger than it is. Oh, yes. Definitely. Yes. More than I've ever thought so.
Yeah.
Much more diverse. And that's what
But at the same time, we're all the same.
True.
You can revel in that diversity. And
that's what I love about it. Everyone's so different, and like you can praise the differences, but it's like it's just amazing there. Granted, like there are some things there, but it's just like I loved it so much, and I feel honestly that I felt more connected towards those places than I've ever been here. Yeah. Not to say that around here is not like something that I've ever not felt home towards. Yeah. But I felt happier just like moving around. I feel like at heart I'm just much more nomadic than usual.
Yeah. No, that's a lot of places. Wow.
Yeah.
Did you see any shows while you guys were there?
Oh,
or no?
We saw the 39 Steps in London.
Oh my goodness, yes we did too. That's so funny. Oh my goodness.
I absolutely love the cast. Like that was it was amazingly
Criterion? Was that at the Criterion Theater or?
Yeah, the Criterion.
Yep, because we saw it there. Some year Michael was much younger when we saw that. It was hilarious. Oh
I loved it. I laughed so hard. Like I've never laughed at a play that hard before. It was just so funny. The cast was amazing.
Oh yeah.
The production was spot on. The movements, like the physical comedy. I don't ever laugh at physical comedy.
Really?
Sometimes, like it takes it takes a lot to get me to laugh at that.
There's a lot in that show.
Yeah, but it made me laugh because it was just so perfectly timed, and that's what I loved about it. And just everyone had their characters down, and even like some of the Hitchcock references were just amazing. Yeah, and I just love that. I can't. I was hoping one day we could do that for school or somewhere around. Or maybe one day if they ever produce it around here.
It's so fast. It is so fast. You got to make these character changes just like this, right?
Set changes, character changes, on and off. All of that.
Yeah, I just love how chairs would fly on the set and they were right exactly, that kind of stuff. Or things would go
someone's dead, like, they're gone the next minute. Like that's just amazing. Gone.
Whoa.
Oh, I loved it. I loved it so much.
Switzerland. What did you think of Switzerland?
Switzerland. Lots of cows.
You saw cows. I guess I didn't.
Cows on mountains.
Cows on mountains.
I know that's crazy.
The hills are alive.
With the sound of cows. It was amazing. I loved it there. It's very much like I don't know how to describe. There's really no way to describe it. It's just like you have to be there. Mm-hmm. I hate to sound like one of those inspirational cards from Hallmark, but it's amazing. Yeah. It really is something you would have to experience to know because it's amazing. It was rainy a lot there, but I can stand rain.
Yeah.
I can pretty much stand anywhere.
Yeah. And what did you guys do in France?
France was amazing. There was just like some jet lag here and there.
Sure.
People like some things were lagging. Everyone wasn't able to get their stuff together, and we were just like trailing behind. One thing I did love about France, because it wasn't like the best of days because everyone was tired, and like we were just off schedule a bit. We were there at the
Seine?
The Seine, yeah.
Yeah, Seine River. Okay.
At the side, and we were supposed to take a ferry, but we had lost someone, and we weren't able to go. Because
you got to find them.
Yeah, we found them, but like not on time enough to go into the ferry and then like go around the river. But we were just like on the Seine, just there looking around, and like it was a solstice. It was like it was a summer solstice, and it was also a music festival going on. So perfect place. Like everyone was just like lively. The locals and tourists alike were just crazy and just going all around, just having fun. And like, but on the Seine it was like much more tame. But then like people started playing music, and like people were like moving around. I got my friends up, and we were like, "Hey, you just like want to dance and have fun?" Some of them I think might have been drinking, but that's okay. So it added to the liveliness. We all just like started dancing, and like soon enough, like a crowd had gone like this big. Then afterwards, it just became like a humongous like sea of people just dancing and moving. People like from kids to people in their 20s, obviously tourists or locals, and then to like elderly people dancing with each other. And like it was just one of the most.
So this is spontaneous. You just guys said, let's just do it.
We had just done it, and it happened. Like it gave me like a glimpse of like, this is amazing. I just love that. Like you can just start a dance party anywhere, and it's just fun. Well, especially in that place. I think that was definitely one of my favorite moments of that experience. Just meeting everyone, just seeing everyone, just having fun and not be so glummed out, and that was just amazing.
Yeah, swell. And English. So you saw 39 Steps in England. What else you see in England?
Actually, that was the one show we chose between that and Wicked. We chose the 39 Steps.
Oh yeah.
Because I guess some people
you can Wicked when you get here.
Yeah, we got Wicked here.
Right.
In England, what else did I see?
You can see museums or just walk around like Hyde Park or that kind of stuff.
We walked around Camden Park.
Okay.
Which was fun. It's like a flea market, but it's like 10 times bigger.
Right.
And like London's known for their punk scene and everything like that, so you see like vintage items for sale there all around.
Oh yeah,
I loved it, and it was just everything that I loved about it.
Vintage? Are you into vintage shopping?
A little bit, because like obviously I'm not the most dainty little flower ever, but so like everyone back then was much more like if they saw me then they would be like, what? No, I do enjoy it. I do love seeing the old fashions and all that. I do love purchasing. If I could purchase them sometimes, then I would. But it's like sometimes if they don't fit me, then nah. But yeah, I have a good friend. She definitely she loved that, and that's what. And she moreover, she pushed me towards that. Like that's what I loved about it, because her whole style was centered around that.
Yes.
And it got me into it, and I loved it so much. And she like opened up a whole new world of like different fashion styles, different eras.
Oh, absolutely.
And I just loved it, and I just love fashion in general, which is also something else I would like to pursue. And I just loved being around that atmosphere. It's very fun.
Yeah. I noticed, we've been to London several times, but the more we go, the more we notice how cosmopolitan it is. In fact, there was one time I went, I never heard English. I heard every language but English. And it's just how cosmopolitan London was. Just amazing, and I like that. That was okay. But it's a fun time. There's just so much to do, all things to kind of see. We never get tired of it. There's kind of familiarity to it, and yet there's
always something new.
Always something new. So now you got that taste for that. Where would you like to go that you haven't been?
I want to go Prague, because I've seen it. I've seen pictures of it at night. Yeah, because it's
the jazz. Not really?
Not really, but I do love it. I do think it's really important. I do think it's really amazing, though. I do want to go to New Orleans one day just to experience, like, the French Quarter and everything like that, because I've seen so many, like, shows depicting it, but I want to experience it myself. And I just want to, like, have a flavor for that life there. And, like, if I could go back anywhere, probably back to London, because as I felt like was very much my city and very much, everything that I loved about it. It was just amazing to me.
I was telling you the reason for that. Like, so we went to Budapest one time, and it's a big film scene. big on American jazz. I didn't realize that. They give awards to American jazz artists there. So it's kind of weird. What? You're some foreign country and you're giving us an award? Why? Because they just love it. But it's got this history that's been conquered so many times. So it's got all these different kind of flavors of different civilizations. Like each civilization's imprint or culture's imprint on there. So you see a little bit of that everywhere. Obviously some of the communism impact as well. And yet they're amazingly friendly and open and stuff like that. It's pretty true. It's and they do a lot of filming there because it can stand in for almost any place in Europe because of this, all the different influences.
Everything just looks alike.
Or if they didn't have it, they made it out of foam. It was incredible. So we're walking on there, and they're making this huge foam scene. Now, they're blending actual buildings with fake bombed out buildings, that kind of stuff, and it was just fascinating just to watch. It's like, what film is this going to be for? That kind of stuff. Amazing stuff.
I would love to see that too. That's definitely one of my places I do want to go to. I do want to experience like more of like Norway, Finland, or Switzerland, anywhere again, like Switzerland again, anywhere where like they film like big open areas.
Yes.
Like big films, like big shows like Game of Thrones or anything like Lord of the Rings, like stuff
like
that.
Are you into that?
No, but my few of my cousins are. Oh yeah. And they love it, but I think it's a really I just love the scenery. Yeah. I just love the looks of it.
Right.
This whole like old timey feel to it. I just think Europe provides that so beautifully, and I want to see it, or especially somewhere around Asia. I would love to go around to, because the culture there is just something so marvelous and something so ancient, but it's also it's very much preserved and honored, which I very much respect and I love.
That's interesting you talk about that, because when we look at most of our stuff here, it's not that old. 100 years is old to us. And to them, that's nothing. They got restaurants that have been around hundreds of years, buildings that are thousands of years old.
It's like, I have this toilet here. It's like, oh, that's a nice toilet. Oh, wait, that's like 5,000 years old. Oh, okay. Sacred toilet. I think that's what I love about it. It's just everything there has just a unique history. Yeah. Or has just a unique like story behind it and everything like that. I would love to go to Japan because it's very beautiful there. I want to experience like this culture that's always on the brink of either like technological revolution and then like old.
Yes.
Old. It's
almost like they can honor both.
They balance it. That's
they can find the balance. Yes.
We're here. It's like everyone wants.
If it's not, pretty much it's just new, and if it's not new, it's not valued. Pretty much. I mean, that's generalization, of course, but sometimes it seems that way.
I think if I were to go anywhere to as like my first stop would probably be New York, as like the dream is for
of course.
Every young actor. Yeah. New York, that's where I want to go.
Yeah.
I would definitely want to try that, which is it's always been in my mind to go to a big city like that, because around here it's very much like not a sleepy little town, but it's just like not as fast action as like a big place like there. Yeah. Everyone's always moving. There's so many different people. Yeah. It's bigger. It's built bigger and everything like that. That's the kind of energy that I thrive on.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely an energy about New York City. I don't want to live there, but it's a great place to visit. Whether we go see the museums or shows. What they have interesting? What do they have? We found it was at the Paley Center for Media. And you could go in there and look up, give me a show on a radio play or a TV show and name it, keyword, right? And it could pop it up. I want to see an old cabaret show. I want to see, an old radio program, and it could pop up. And it was pretty cool. We were just spending time just kind of looking at all these old shows or listening to them. It was nice. But again, it's only in the last, 50, 75 years? Like I said, with Europe or to Asia, that's nothing.
True.
Yeah. So
Europe has Shakespeare. We have.
What do we have?
Give me a minute.
Give a American jazz. Yes.
I think with coming into theater now and to musicals, I've gotten much more of an appreciation towards it. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. It's like opened my eyes to much more productions out there, and I've gotten to enjoy musicals more, because back then I never listened to music. I'm going to be honest. I never listened to a single musical in my life.
But you must like music, right?
I do.
What's your favorite style of music?
Actually, I'm much more eclectic in my taste.
So it's not.
If anything resonates with me personally, then I love it. Even if it's like from your usual pop you hear on the radio, which is fine if that's your taste. But I can go with that sometimes too. to something that's very obscure and something that like not many people listen to. That's fine too. I find everything in between, but I think my favorites would always have to be my favorite musical idols. I actually can't name right now because
that's all right. Well, listen, so you don't really identify so much with a style of music per se, but something about whatever the music is speaks to you. So what is it? Is it the lyrics? Is that beat that it's kind of like part of the emotion? What is this?
Growing up, I could never. My mind couldn't catch up with the words or couldn't make out the words.
Right.
I guess because I either didn't pay attention hard enough or I was just like. I was thinking like too much, but the beat itself would always make me more like I could follow it to that. Right. So I would always know. I could tell a song by the cadence and the beat more so than the lyrics. Right. So growing up with that, I grew up with more of like a like a sensibility. Right. Yes. And I tried going into I actually did try to go into music production for a couple of months, but I couldn't get the software for it, and I was trying to like do stuff, but it wasn't as it's definitely something I would try to do again, but just for now I have to I'm gonna try to wait on that and see if I can work on it more, and I just had to gain more of a ear for music and learn how to put things together. Because I can't put arrangements together for crap. Well,
it's kind of interesting. I guess, before when we thought about music, I mean, we're talking about music theory and you have to play an instrument. But now, I'm not saying you don't need to know that, but now it makes it so much easier to assemble different components and actually make some pretty interesting arrangements without knowing too much.
Like one of my favorite artists of all time, she's literally becoming huge pop star. Yes. But she literally had no basis in music before. Right. She just literally put together beats that sounded good in her head. As she's progressed.
And they've resonated, no pun intended, with other people, right?
True.
Yeah. So they said, hey, that sounds pretty cool, right?
And now as she progresses, she's gone better. She learns more. She learns more about the business. Yes. And I think that's what's really great about it is now you can be more of a DIY type artist.
Mm-hmm. It's easier to do that.
True. I just if I were to ever become a musician, I don't know where I would. I feel like I don't ever want to be put into a box. Yes. I don't ever want to be stuck
Nobody
in
does.
True. I don't ever want to be stuck being known for a certain thing. I'm probably going to be known for certain things. Yes, obviously. Right. I just want to be more adaptable. Yes. Or much more I don't know the word for it, but I just want to be able to spread out over different type of genres.
Well, and I know that a lot of artists like to do that, but then it's their fans trying to figure out, so what are they? Because we always want to put people in boxes, right? Label them, right? So if they're, for example, Amy Grant, okay? She got her start in what we call Christian contemporary music, right? But she didn't want to be labeled that way, and she worked really, really, really hard not to be. And everybody's going, no, don't do that, And to some, she had some success with that, but it's really hard, I would think, for most artists, because you say, this is the kind of style I want,
True, because it all depends on the style that's most marketable, or what can sell better to some people. But some people just I don't care about sales. I kind of want to do more experimental things and just do my own thing.
Superman, for instance, most of the people are doing some kind of the superhero kind of. Christopher Reeve when he did the same thing, right? He didn't want to be labeled. This is all I can do, and he worked really hard and I think successfully to not be just a superhero kind of character. But it's hard. We wouldn't want to put people in these little boxes, and that's it. We don't want to hear anything more.
True. Even I think for actors now,
same thing. Yeah.
You don't want to be you don't either want to be typecasted or you don't want to be known for specific roles. And sadly, people always put you in these roles. Yes. But I don't think I think it's just a matter of knowing your times. Mm-hmm. And knowing when to finally break out of it, as soon as you can, you got to find something else to do, and something that can be much more recognizable. Yes. Which is something that I've always kept in mind as an actor, and something that I do want to. I'm definitely going to try to do because I want to be much more versatile.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I don't want to be stuck in something. Mm-hmm. But I do think if I am recognized for a role, then it'll be for a role that I really do love. Yeah. And I think that if it leaves a positive message, then I'm perfectly okay with that.
That's good. Yeah. So what's with the positive message?
I think that if I were to, for my message becoming a big actor, I think it would be more of to help people know that you can be you and that you can always do you're not limited to what people prescribe to you.
Yes, yes.
So that's what I think would be my message. Short and sweet.
No, I mean I think it's an important thing as we keep hearing stories over and over again of friends or friends of friends that aren't comfortable in their skin.
Sure.
And unfortunately, take their lives or something like that. It's just so sad, that one. We need that message to get out there and to resonate and to really, stay with each person. So you're valuable wherever you are.
Sure.
Even if it takes a while for you to find who you are, but that's okay.
And I honestly feel like that's what people love movies so much, or love characters or anything like that, and they stick so to them because like these characters give them a sort of leeway.
Yes.
Like fandoms now, like it's much more. I feel much more intense than back then. Mm-hmm. People see these people look up to these characters and they look up to these actors and saying like these are the people that have given me much more. Mm-hmm. That have basically shaped who I am now.
Right.
I grew up like basically with like strong. With very fun, strong characters, and I look up to them for inspiration. People look up to different characters, and they take inspiration from them. Yeah. And I think that's what follows people towards this like certain area.
Yes.
Because they want to emulate their icons.
Yes.
Which is something that I very much enjoy.
Absolutely. I think that when we see certain elements of their character, or even just characteristics, you can go like, "Hey, I want to be more like that," or "I see that in me." Or I understand where that character is coming from. And so I think it's a great way. We were talking a little bit sometimes about how storytelling seems like it's almost a lost art. But I guess we just have different ways of conveying stories.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we still love stories, but how we convey those stories, whether if they have to be in video games now or, it's different.
A story is definitely, there was a time when people brushed aside story and much more focused on product than it was like substance.
Right.
But as like now in the more contemporary age now, people are much more invested in a story and invested in characters and want to see like what the trials and tribulations of certain people.
Yes.
Like from TV shows to movies to video games, even to anything else.
Yeah.
People will always find these characters, their stories, and they always want to create. They want to surround themselves in it because this gives them something.
Yes.
That's something I can't exactly name. I want to say it's more of like a hope, which I do love. And
well, that's kind of interesting. Maybe it does. It's something tough. Because I remember I used to play, it's an old game now, but we used to call RuneScape. Right? And it's like most video games, but at the time, the graphics were crude. But what made it were the storylines and all these different storylines in there. It wasn't just about fighting. Yeah, you can get that in almost any game you can talk about. But it was these storylines, and you would explore it, and you get to choose which of these storylines you want to follow. And I think that a lot of the good video games have some kind of storyline that you follow. Yeah,
I do love the idea of trying to. I think that's what's great. It's like you can have something that's going on for years and years and years. People will be invested in the story and they'll love it and they'll want to see this character go through their lives. Mm-hmm. Or you can have something that'll last maybe for like a short time.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And like will be gone in an instant. But it's like that story and those characters will always leave something, which is what I love so much. Yeah. Like for instance, it's one of my favorite shows of all time, Veronica Mars.
Okay.
Only on for 3 seasons.
Yes.
Then it was gone. And then, like, years later, like, the fans were like, they were pursuing an idea of a movie.
Yes.
And the fans instantly backed it. They helped it because they wanted to know where are these characters going, what has happened to them. And they got through with it, and they were able to pull through, and they helped it, and I loved it.
Yeah.
That's what I loved. That's what I love about fans is that they're much more responsive than people think, and they're much more vocal than what people will say, than what people think. Yeah. It all lies in their hands sometimes, too.
Well, and more so, especially since we started to do crowdfunding, because that's how... Did they make that movie? Because I know there was a crowdfunding
It was on Kickstarter, I believe.
Yeah, Kickstarter, right. So to kind of do this Veronica Mars movie, I guess. And I think that is great, because not only, you said we have the power of in terms of fandom, of just say we like this show, but we actually got to fund it, be part of it. I think even if when you were given money, you could even get like little bit parts in the thing.
Oh, yeah, you could. If you gave a certain amount, you could definitely be a part of it. Which is very cool and just like something like it gives opportunity to people and it helps people like be a part of the story that they've been loving so much.
Sure.
Especially for something as I feel at the time wasn't around as much a strong female character such as Veronica. Mm-hmm. So people were definitely like clung onto her and they loved her story. Mm-hmm. And as the years went by, the interest in her became bigger and she was back in the spotlight again as being this character that was brought back to life because of her fans, and everyone loved her, and that just shows you the power of fandom. Granted, it doesn't always work. Things can't always like come together as much as the fans would want. But you have fans now; they'll write stories as like it's called.
Yes, they do.
And which is really amazing, and which is what's great for all young authors too. I believe because it allows them to work in a story that's already established with characters that's already established. But it gives them like it's sort of like you know how if you were younger you always play like army, or you would play like with your action figures and toys, and give them like these characters, or you build something into them and you just like make a story with that. That's basically their stories, which I love, and I love that idea. Like you can just, if you don't like what's happened, you can just imagine a different ending, and you can always help, and you can always just make it better. Sometimes they're much more better, but you know, that's just me. I just really enjoy that. I do love that, and I hopefully one day I can give something to. If my work is much more established now, I'll give something to people, and they'll love it, and they'll want to keep it, and they'll want to like preserve it as sort of memory. And I think that's what I want to leave as my mark on. Yes. As an actor, that's what would be really great.
So, do you have an actor or actress that you say, this I'd like to be like that?
I enjoy the works of. I do love Sarah Paulson. Okay. She's like one of my favorites. She's become really great. Jessica Lange and Angela Bassett, all like great. Like now they're involved. Now they're involved in TV shows. But like looking back on their history of movies and everything like that, you just see just how amazing and versatile they are. I think those are just my main three. I do enjoy those actresses. I don't think I have one like I'm specifically put on. No, but I do enjoy like their work a lot. Sure. I do for my favorite directors. I have like a whole list of those.
Directors, really? Yeah. That's got interesting. Well, who would you list?
I immensely enjoy like David Fincher and like Quentin Tarantino, because growing up, I was literally like 6 years old, and my mom would always she got the movie Kill Bill, and I would watch that incessantly. And as a 6-year-old, you're probably not supposed to watch that movie. But I stood by it, and I loved it, and I watched it every day, basically. I would copy the moves. I would pretend to be this character, but I love seeing the shots, seeing the movements, seeing how, like, everything was put together. I love Fincher's movies because they're kind of ambient, but also, like, very cold and fun, and you just know that you're invested in the story from the get-go, which I love. And I think those are, like my two mains. Yeah. So because they have like such a great artistry in their directing, which I love. Yeah, and it's something that I want to do. Hopefully, also direct too. Hopefully one day, but I don't know. So we'll just have to see, because I have to learn. I would have to be much more. I would have to learn how to do that just so I can put out something that I'm really happy about.
So the style. I mean, you obviously like their style. You follow them. So what would be your style? Because, I mean, we're still back to telling stories, right? But they kind of have a certain way that they like to tell stories, maybe whether it's quirky or whatever. So what would be your stamp if you were making a film?
Definitely lots of color. I think lots of color.
Lots of color, okay.
Like in the places where it's like, I want to give much more subtext. So definitely, like, you're not experiencing from a character, you're not experiencing from outside, you're much more experiencing from a character's point of view. Yes. Or if it's something like you're just seeing a character, like the area around it, like that's how the character's feeling around it. I would definitely like to highlight color now, because I do enjoy vibrancy and just like seeing everything flash and everything like that. Right. And I do enjoy like a more like stone cold, slow pace. Or I like to do juxtapositions. Yes. I do love things that just like, they don't exactly add up to what they're supposed to, but it conveys a message still, which I do love.
Do you like ambiguity in that message, so that there can be multiple interpretations? It doesn't have to be the interpretation.
Exactly, that's what I love about it too. It's like everyone has their own interpretation, and they're all correct, and they're all correct in a way, and because it's so complex. I love flipping things on their head and like people unsure of what they're seeing at first. Right. I love symbolism. I'm like a huge writing is definitely. I'm very analytical to a point where I can guess what something's going to happen beforehand or what something means.
Does that make it boring?
No, it's actually very fun because I love interpreting things and I love making my own idea of what's going on. Right. So if I can just like muddle that up for someone and have them interpret it, if it's like a huge like launch away from what exactly I had in mind, then I'm perfectly okay with that. Right. I don't have any directing experience at all, but I do love a good. I would just like to make a movie where it's just like, I like gritty, but I also like gritty, but I also like fun and quirky.
Right.
So much more like eccentric, probably, and that it falls.
Well, it's kind of
that.
interesting because I don't know too many actors that don't want to experiment and experiment with gritty drama and that kind of thing. I know whether they feel it cathartic, I don't know, or they think that's the thing to do. Well, what is it about gritty? What message you trying to just because you've got gritty doesn't mean it has to be evil, bad, whatever, or just all gray. But
I just like,
what is it about gritty?
I like things that make it much more. It's definitely dark, but at the same time, there's a sense of like, it explores a much not primitive, but much more darker side of people's personalities. But It's also like something that can be balanced out and something that gives people like a sort of, like I said, balance.
Well, I when I think about this, life in itself can either be pretty mundane or it can be gritty in itself. And I guess if we're back to this authenticity or trying to find something that we relate to, we want to see something that it's not just all cotton candy. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You want something that's a little closer, or at least in some way, to something that we can relate to.
Yeah.
Or, there's also the flip side is that, there can be a little bit of that fantasy in there, too. It doesn't necessarily have to mirror our lives, necessarily. But
that, too. I do love to, I love to cross genres, and I like to mix them together.
Yes.
So it's just, something that would be like that. Certain projects, because I always had, these weird ideas in my head for stories that either, they'll defy, the set narrative, and they'll, be much different than usual. And I want to portray that on screen. I'm a much more visual person.
Yeah.
So when I listen to music or when I read books, I always imagine in my head. I can hear everything. I can hear the characters.
Yeah.
And or when I'm listening to music, I can imagine flashes of what I would want this scene to be or how I would want to portray it. And so I think that's gonna really help me out when I grow up. It's when I become a bigger director and I'm able to put things in my perspective. Because all in all, it's definitely how I'm seeing it.
Right.
Or how I'm telling the story with these characters, and I think that's how I want to say. So I think that's something that I do enjoy.
Wow. Well, what do you do when you're not doing theater?
Now I am at home. I usually I try to rest up, and then I'm because it's summer already.
Right. You don't binge watch anything?
Oh, I let me tell you, I binge watch basically. I binge watch a lot of. I love American Horror Story, so I rewatch all the scenes of that.
Right.
I love Will and Grace. That's some of my favorite. That's the sitcom that I grew up with.
Right.
And that's that's how I think I got my sense of humor from. It's just very snarky, very funny, very quirky. I just love that. I grew up with those. Usually, I love my older 90s sitcoms a lot.
Yeah.
So, because I think those characters definitely like Fran Fine, Roseanne Barr, all those people, they were definitely people I saw in my own life, or I was much more in tune with. Right. So I love watching those comedies because they're much more home based.
Yes.
So I love family oriented comedies.
Oh.
I love dramas, certain contemporary dramas now that are much more gritty and stuff like that. Like I said, American Horror Story, because it's a very fun, fantasy-filled show. I love Orphan Black. It's it's a UK show. Not a lot is maybe 10 episodes at most each season, but it's such a great show. It's such a great show, very visually stunning. I don't know. I think that's just about it. I don't have any access to sort of streaming services, so I can't get everything there now.
Right.
Usually I'm on YouTube listening to music a lot, or I'm just any of my favorite artists or like that. Mm-hmm. Or I'm binge watching a music video that I watched 10 times already.
Well, hey, we're glad to have you here. We hope to get to do more stuff and just continue learning, continue growing. We're all trying to do that as well. We'll ask you what we've been asking everyone else. If heaven exists, what do you want God to say when you get to the pearly gates?
Is there coffee here? Is there an espresso machine? Is Michael cooking up a venti latte right there? Can I have one? Do I have to get a membership card?
Please say no. Please.
If I'm fat now, can I get like? Is there like an elliptical here?
So you're gonna have a whole series of questions.
Is there an elliptical? Is there a gym? Like I'm dead. I might as well start working out now.
Okay, 20 questions. There we go.
All right.
Okay, go.
He'll probably send me down just for asking somebody. Like, you deal with him. Devil puts me on earth like, oh, no, he has too many now. I don't deal with him. Well, here I am.
Carlos, thanks for being with us, man.
Thank you.